All right, what's up, everybody, and welcome to the Jawbreaker MMA show, always associated with the Sports Mark analyst. My name is Adam. The other guy on the screen is Roman. And everybody, it's finally time for MMA to come back
Really?
into our lives. Live this Saturday from the Five-Star Veterans Memorial Arena in Jacksonville, Florida. Thank you, Florida. Comes UFC 249. Tony Ferguson against Justin Gaethje, headlining. Thankfully, this is what we needed as MMA fans. This is what we needed as sports fans. This is definitely what the degenerate gamblers of the world needed. I'm excited. How are you feeling about it?
It's a big relief that it's finally back. Finally, something to watch that's live, and it. We were supposed to have it on April 18th. That fell through, and we didn't know what was going to happen. And finally, thank you, Florida, for saying this is an essential part of business.
Only
And
Florida, baby.
yes, and we are finally ready, set to roll, and we're gonna be having a bunch of fights coming up for in the coming days after this. I'm really pumped. This is probably the best news I've received throughout this whole quarantine.
Yeah, it definitely helps to make life feel just a little bit more normal. Um, and like I said, I think for everybody, even people who aren't even the biggest fans of the sport, at least there'll be something live for them to watch, to just give them something, a little entertainment rather than watching Korean baseball at 1 a.m. or just replays of old Monday Night Football or
Mm-hmm.
basketball games. So it's nice to have live sports back for a change in the United States. All right, so we're gonna get into our predictions and preview this card. So we are going to start off with the first prelim of the main set of prelims. Uriah Hall against Jacare Souza in the middleweight division. How do you see this going down?
So, yeah, this is a really good fight. To start off, the main prelims, Uriah Hall, who's on a 2-fight win streak, against Jacare Souza. He's on a 2-fight losing streak, but he's coming back down to middleweight. He lost his last fight in light heavyweight. Um, this is a good test for Uriah Hall to see what his placement is in the middleweight division, to finally see if he's a true contender or not. I know he's up there in age, but I think this will be a great test for him. Um, I give the striking to Uriah Hall, obviously the grappling to Jacare. If Jacare is able to, well, I'm pretty sure he'll be able to take Uriah Hall. It's hopefully if he could hold him down and can he submit him. Uriah Hall has to have good defense and make sure he doesn't uh, get taken down, and he has to put on the pressure on Jacare. It's a pick 'em fight here. But I think personally, I think Jacare had time to relax and you know um, just go back to the basics. I think Jacare will be able to beat Uriah Hall. I'll pick. I'll go with second round submission, Jacare.
Right. Yeah, there's a few fights on this card that are just a bit of a toss up, just because you don't know what to expect. These are two guys who, in every any given fight, they can look pretty different from their last fight. Um, Especially like a guy like Uriah Hall, who's he's pretty inconsistent. Um, he definitely has the edge of striking, for the striking, whereas Jacare has obviously the ground game locked up. And if he's able to get it to the ground, it could end up being a very short night um, for Uriah Hall. At the same time, it is starting on the feet, so and I'm sure Uriah Hall's not going to want to get in any kind of trap by Jacare. Now Jacare is a little older. He seems like he's slowing down just a bit. Um, I think, I think it's, like I said, a little bit of a toss up. You don't know which way this is going to go. But I'm actually going to say that Uriah Hall gets a nice decisive win. Um, somewhere in the earlier round, the first or second round. I think he's gonna catch him. I think he's gonna catch Jacare with a good strike and end it with a knockout or a TKO. Um, I don't know why. I just get a feeling. Could definitely go either way, but I get a feeling that Uriah Hall is finally gonna take off a little bit and get a nice solid win um, to start off the prelims there.
Mhm.
All right. Next up, we've got in the women's strawweight division,
Mhm.
Carla Esparza against Michelle Watterson.
So Carla Esparza, she's on a 2-fight win streak, and Michelle Waterson, she's coming off a decision loss to Joanna Jacek. Uh, she was on a 3-fight win streak prior to that. So um, again, this fight here, stand up versus wrestler, Carla Esparza is probably one of the best wrestlers in that division besides Tatiana Suarez, in my opinion. And then
Yeah.
you have Michelle Waterson, who has excellent stand up. Um, I think in this fight, Michelle Waterson is going to be able to dictate where the fight goes. I know Carla is going to be depending on her wrestling. Cardio is definitely going to be a factor here. Also, depending, obviously they're not getting all the 100% training they would usually get, so I'll put that into consideration for Carla Esparza. Um, I think Michelle Waterson is gonna win this fight by decision. Um, I'm gonna pick her.
Okay. Yeah, I can't imagine this fight being too entertaining. It could be kind of a slow fight. Could be a little boring, only because I think that if if Esparza is gonna be winning the fight and take over, yeah, she's gonna be using her wrestling. She could grind out a win that way. Watterson could. She's gonna want to maybe just kind of point find a little, with her strikes, little by little. She's neither of them are known to be big finishers, right? So um, I'd say it's a safe bet to say that this is going to go to the decision. Um, only difference is I actually think Esparza has more of a chance to dominate a little more just because of her wrestling. Um, so just because of that, I'm actually going with Esparza to win by decision.
Okay.
Right. All right. Up next, you got a pair of a couple older heavyweights.
Mm-hmm.
Alexei Olenek going up against Fabricio Verdum, returning.
All right. So Alexei Oleinik, he's coming off a submission win over Maurice Green back in January. Um, and cool fact about Alexei Oleinik, he has 46 wins by submission. So
Jesus.
yeah, so this fight right here is going to be a grappling fest here. Fabricio Verdum, on the other
That's
hand,
crazy. I didn't know that. That's
yeah,
nuts. Wow.
I think Verdum has like 11 wins by submission. Um, and then you have Verdum, who has not fought since March 2018 due to the suspension he was coming off of USADA. Uh, he's coming off of a KO loss to Alexander Volkov. But prior to that, Verdum was on a tear, and he was the former heavyweight champion before um, fighting Stipe. Well, he lost to him. Um, so yeah, I think this fight's gonna be. I don't think this fight's gonna be on the ground, on the feet too much. I think they're gonna try to take it to the ground. It's gonna be a matter of who's able to bring the person to the ground and get a better hold of.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I know Verdum hasn't fought since 2018, so I'm curious to see what kind of shape he's going to come in. How ready is he going to be? How focused? I know he's been talking about how he just wants to fulfill his contract and then move on. So I wonder where his head is at. On the
Mm-hmm.
other hand, you have Alexei Oleinik, who's coming in, you know, off of a win on from January. So I would give him the advantage. I think Alexei Oleinik is going to win this, but not by submission. I think he's going to be able to get Verdun down and just get a TKO victory over him. I'm going to say second round, Alexei Oleinik.
Okay. Yeah. Both guys very good on the ground. Um, Olenek is just he's a monster on the ground. His stand up doesn't quite match up well with Verdum's, who's especially more recently has looked pretty good with his strikes. Um, but it has been a couple years, so again, you just don't know what he's going to look like. If there is some kind of rust involved with him coming back. Um, so I would imagine though that Verdum probably would want to keep this on the feet um, for as long as he can because he definitely has the advantage there. But if he does end up getting on the ground, I mean, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see, uh, the levels here of as far as who can outmatch who. It'll be like a chess match
Mm-hmm.
of jujitsu. Um, even though it's been a couple years, I think I'm still going to roll with Verdum. Um, I think he could do enough to get a decision out of it. So I think Verdum by decision.
Okay.
All right, and now the main event of the prelims, and I mean this just goes to show how stacked of a card this whole thing is. The main event of the prelims, you have Donald Cowboy Cerrone going up against Anthony Pettis.
Yeah, this is a rematch from 2013 where Anthony Pettis won by first round TKO by a body kick, 2 minutes and 35 seconds in that first round. Since then, Donald Cerrone went 17-9, and Anthony Pettis went 6-8 from 2013. Uh, it's crazy. He fought 26 fights afterwards compared to 14 fights. Um, so so we have Cerrone, who's on a 3-fight losing streak. He lost to Tony Ferguson, Justin Gaethje, and Connor. Those are 3 big names
Mm-hmm.
that he fought. Um, and prior to that, he was on a 3-fight win streak. And then you have Anthony Pettis, who's on a 2-fight losing streak, lost by submission to Carlos Diego Ferreira, and prior lost to Nate Diaz by decision.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so when I look at this fight, I look at the statistics. Cerrone does better after a losing streak. He's able to bounce back. On the other hand, Pettis wins one, loses one, wins one, loses a few. So he's been on a inconsistent run. I think this is a very important fight for both of them. Whoever wins this fight,
Yep.
I think, has a better path in their career, at least with this win. Um, I think, well, this is tough. I don't see this going the distance. I do think Cerrone has a better better edge. I know he's coming in. I think he's coming in hungry into this fight. He did admit the last fight he wasn't there against Connor. He said he basically didn't even want to be there. I think now, there's less pressure. There's no crowd there. I think it's just him. I think he'll be able to pull this off. I'm gonna go with Cerrone, second round, TKO victory.
All right. Yeah, so it's very typical. Before all this stuff in the world started happening, and someone asked you, "Hey, if you were going to throw together a card and you needed some fighters on there, who's the number one guy you think would be down to be a part of it?" You'd probably say you think you know a guy, and
Yeah.
that guy would be Cowboy Cerrone. Now he's yeah, like you said, it's a rematch. These guys they know each other. Um, they I think it's a good situation. It's a comfortable situation for both of them because, like you said, they both they could both definitely use a win, and um, they're both they're both just looking to get back on track. Cowboy, he seems pretty hungry. Pettis as well, though, too. I mean, he knows that this is especially after losing the last couple. Cowboy is still a big name for Pettis. So I think this has potential to be even a fight of the night.
Mm-hmm.
Because these guys are just, I almost feel like not having a crowd there, and because of the situations, these are two guys who are just purely there to fight. I think they can bring the best out of each other. It could potentially be the best of both of them.
Mm-hmm.
So this could be really exciting, and a great way to end the prelims right before the pay-per-view starts. With that being said, I I also give a slight edge to Cowboy. I think I think after the Connor fight, I mean, sure, he's bummed out. He wants to get back on track, but he's also just, I don't know. I think when he loses, I think he just, the pressure comes off. I
Right.
think he said before in the real big fights and the pressure's on. I think he just feels it too much. I mean, I think that definitely showed in the Connor fight. He's just not he's not good, unfortunately, for the real big ones. So this one being, the prelims, no crowd. I think he can really do his best out there. Now Pettis, he's gonna be game. He's not gonna go down easy either. Um, but I think it has potential to be a war. And I actually have Cerrone winning by decision,
Okay.
by maybe a split decision. Could be a real close fight. All right. Now, onto the pay-per-view portion of the card. We have our first fight of the night, heavyweight division, undefeated Jorgen De Castro going up against Greg Hardy.
Yeah. So Greg Hardy, he's coming off a decision loss to Alexander Volkov, but he does have all his 5 wins by TKO. Jorgen De Castro is coming in 6-0, 2-0 in the UFC. He's a high prospect from the Contender Series, and he has 5 wins by TKO finishes as well. So I think this is going to be a good fight to see where these two prospects stand.
Mm-hmm.
Greg Hardy, he's been on the tear in the UFC with some fights with controversy. Obviously, we know the one with the inhaler gate incident.
Yeah.
Uh, and then, illegal, I think he did an illegal kick
Mm-hmm. They're
to his
down to point.
opponent. So that was but yeah, I mean, with Greg Hardy, he's shown that he does belong in the cage. Actually, his skills are pretty good as far as striking. The question is, how is he with his wrestling? Jorgen De Castro has been knocking out guys, so I haven't really seen how his wrestling is. Maybe this will be a a bang fest here to start off the pay per view. I don't see this fight going distance.
No,
I don't
okay.
even see it going past the first round, honestly, with these two guys.
Yeah.
Um, I'm gonna give Greg Hardy the edge. I think he's gonna come in motivated. He wants to prove to the people that he's in this for real, and you know, and be taken serious. I'm gonna go with Greg Hardy by knockout in the first round.
Yeah. You basically took the words right out of my mouth. I think Hardy really wants to prove something. Um, whether things were intentional or not, that's happened in the past. I think, like you said, he's shown that he actually he's doing pretty well, and I think with every fight that goes by, he does even better.
Mm-hmm.
Um, his who was his last fight against again?
Alexander Volkov. And that's
Volkov.
a big step
Yeah,
up. That's the
which
number
was
six
like,
guy in the division.
yeah, he looked. I mean, exactly for the competition he was up against. He looked all right.
Yeah.
I think he looked better than a lot of people thought he would. Um, so definitely shows. I mean, he's very athletic. Now, DeCastro, I know. I mean, he is. I mean, he hits hard. He's he's nothing. He's nothing to joke about himself. But I do think Hardy's athleticism. I think he could potentially just end up like charging at him, maybe press him against the cage, use his body weight against him,
Hmm.
um, and then land some big heavy shots, which we know he has. So yeah, I agree. I think this is potentially a good way to start the card off with a banger, and Hardy wins with a first round knockout. All right, next up we got Calvin Cater going up against Jeremy Stevens.
Yeah, this is another great fight
Yeah.
here, similar to Cerrone and Pettis. I think this is going to be
Yep.
a stand-up war. This is one of the sleeper fights actually on the card. That also has potential fight of the night.
Yep.
Um, you have both these guys coming off losses, so this makes the fight even better. They have something to prove as well. Jeremy Stevens, he's on a 3-fight losing streak. He lost to Aldo by TKO. He lost to Zabit by decision. He lost to Yair Rodriguez by decision. Again, three guys that are Hall of Fame and could be future champions here.
Mm.
Um, he was on a 3-fight win streak prior to that. Then you have Calvin Cater, who lost to Zabit by decision, and he was on a 2-fight win streak prior to that. Jeremy Stevens comes into this fight with the most experience, with the most fights in the UFC here. Calvin Cater, he's a guy that won't back down, will come forward and strike with you. This is going to be a stand-up war. I don't see it also going to the decision. I think Calvin Cater is going to pull this off second round. I think he's going to win by knockout on this fight.
All right. Yeah, this was probably the hardest of all the fights for me to pick. Like you said, I think it's also another potential for fight of the night. Two guys who are just who are ready to go to war, hungry after losses, and coming off of losses, which are I mean some of the better losses you can have. Still looking pretty good. So it's a fight. It's a fight that makes a lot of sense for the both of them to be going against each other. Um, yeah, they're both gonna. It's gonna be it's gonna be striking. I can't imagine it just not being strikes back and forth. Um, of course, a nice advantage that Cater has is his reach. He can use his distance a little more, but Stevens isn't afraid to get in there and land some shots on the inside. It's one of the things that makes him him. He's just he can be an animal in there. Um, it's still a tough one to pick, but you know what? I'm actually picking. Where'd you go? Second round,
Yeah,
Cater.
second round, Cater.
Yeah, I'm picking Cater too, but I'm gonna say third round.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I think by then, Cater ends up landing a good shot to you know to um to Stevens while they're both probably a little tired, a little worn out, probably going having a nice war. I think I think Cater gets it done in the third.
Okay.
All right. All right. Next up, we got battle of some big heavyweights.
Oh, number one contendership fight.
Yeah. Francis Ngannou going up against Darzinho, Biggie Boy, Rosenstruck.
There you go. Yeah, two big names in the heavyweight division. I mean, besides Stipe Miocic and Daniel Cormier, these two are the real deal right here. These two guys are like the next two best heavyweights in this
Terrifying.
division. Yeah, you have Francis Ngannou on a 3-fight win streak. He beat Curtis Blades, Cain Velasquez, Junior Dos Santos, all by the first round by TKO or KO.
Yeah.
That's insane. Um, you have Rosenstrike, who is 10-0, 4-0 in the UFC, all fights won by finishes, has not seen the decision. Um, I mean, Rosenstrike in this prior fight when he was fighting Overeem, he was losing that fight, and 4 seconds left, and he tags Overeem and knocks him out. I mean, TKOs him to get that win. Rosenstrike, in a way, kind of reminds me of Francis, how he started off. You know, he's on that rise, big rise, and they put him in against a killer pretty much. Same thing with Francis. He was on the
Well,
tear and went against Stipe, and we all thought, oh man, Francis is going to knock out Stipe. He's going to catch him in the first round and become the heavyweight champion. But
yeah,
I think Francis, with that loss and the loss to Derek Lewis, I think he's in the right place now after those two losses. He knows, you know, he how to settle in. He knows how to not be under that pressure. And I think this is Francis's fight to lose. I mean, this is his opportunity to win this fight and potentially, you know, go after the heavyweight title. Either rematch Stipe if he beats Cormier, or he's going to fight for the vacant title against whoever is worthy next. Could be Stipe again or whoever else. This fight's definitely not going to a decision. I'll be shocked.
yeah.
I don't think this fight will even go to the second round. Even I'm going to pick Francis first round knockout, late first round. But yeah, I think Francis is going to tag Rosenstrike and go with the victory. He's going to be the next number one contender.
All right. Yeah, poor Alistair Overeem. He's felt the wrath of both these guys.
Yeah.
Uh, two memorable knockouts when
The
both.
worst was by Francis, of course.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, but
He
at
laid
least
him out
I
cold.
guess at least his lip wasn't split
Yeah.
in half. And oh man, it was so yeah, two of the most scariest individuals in the world. Honestly, these two guys, they you know, like you said, yeah, Rosenstrike does kind of have some similarities, you know, coming up, being that scary dude, like Francis did. Um, Francis, though, I mean, I feel like he kind of, you know, he's gone through some of the more pressure fights. He's become more experienced with the lights on him, um, and I think he'll probably feel the most comfortable now. Um, at the same time, though, a guy like Jairzinho Rosenstrike, he seems very calm, very calculated. He doesn't seem that he lets much bother him. Also, and besides throwing some punches, he's got some decent kicks too, especially for a heavyweight. He's got some. He can get his leg up there. Um, I do think. I think maybe the first round might be a little bit of a feel out.
Mm.
Um, at least at first. Um, and because of the some a little more experience against bigger names too, I'm taking Francis to win in the second round.
Okay.
I think similarly, I'll get a knockout or a TKO, a nice a big punch. Yeah, again, I can't, like you said, I can't imagine it going the distance. I mean, these guys they hit so hard. Hopefully, I mean, hopefully it's not another snooze fest like it was against Derek Lewis. I hope these guys don't just stand and are too gun shy. Um, but yeah, if I'm picking, I'd go with Francis to get the win. I think it launches him right into like a number one contender fight, and he may look as good as he's ever looked. We
Yeah.
may even I even heard like that he's really improved with his ground and his wrestling game too.
Yeah,
So
he's training at Extreme Couture.
yeah,
So I think that's going to be a big plus.
so you never
And he's
know.
looking in good shape too.
Yeah, he's looking great. And you never know. He may even try to go for a takedown or something. Try something different if he
Yeah,
if
he did have a submission win back in early part in his UFC career.
yeah. There you go. So maybe I'll try to change it up and just show how dynamic he can be. So yeah, I'm rolling with him.
Okay.
All right. Next up, we are finally up to the co-main event
Love this fight.
of the evening for the Bantamweight Championship of the World.
Mhm.
You've got the champ, Triple C, Henry Cejudo, defending the belt against the probably the most dominant bantamweight champ ever,
Mhm.
Dominic Dominator Cruz.
Yeah, this fight is great. I love this fight for so many reasons. Henry Cejudo on a 5-fight win streak. He's looking to make his first title defense of the bantamweight title. He had a third round TKO victory over Marlon Morelos to win the title. I mean, if you look at his last prior wins too, he beat TJ Dillashaw, who was the bantamweight champion. He went down to flyweight to challenge Cejudo, beat him like in 40 seconds TKO. He beat Demetrius Johnson to take the belt, one of the best champions in the flyweight division, and he was the only flyweight champion
Yep.
before Cejudo won. Um, and then you have Dominic Cruz here, who lost the title to Kobe Garbrandt in his by decision in his last fight. And this fight was back in December 2016, so that's pretty much almost 4 years of no fighting here. Cruz has been unlucky with these injuries. Just keep kept getting injuries back and back all over again. And it's prior to his loss, he was on the 13-fight win streak. He's looking to become a three-time bantamweight champion. And yeah, I love this fight. It's gonna be about will and who can have the most endurance here. You have Dominic Cruz, who has one of the best footworks in that division. You have Cejudo, who has excellent wrestling. His striking improved. And I think for Dominic Cruz, I don't think he has anything to lose here. If he loses this fight, he could bounce back easily. I think it's more on Henry Cejudo. I think all the pressure falls on Cejudo. He has to back up all his talk. He's saying he wants to take out the legends of the game here. He wants to take out Cruz. He wants to take out Aldo. He wants to fight all these big names. And I think Cruz is a perfect test. I really I could see this fight going 5 rounds, honestly. And if it goes 5 rounds, the advantage is to Cruz. He's got excellent cardio, great footwork. Again, like I said, um, you know what? I'm gonna go with an upset pick here. I'm gonna go with Dominic Cruz. He's gonna win by decision over Henry Cejudo. He's gonna be able to control the fight. He's gonna make Cejudo miss. He's gonna make him, panic, make mistakes, and he's gonna just be able to counter Cejudo. So I think Dominic Cruz is gonna become a three-time bantamweight champion here.
Yeah, Cejudo even said that he'd recently said he'd married Jose Aldo just so he can kind of to fight in the United States. But we'll see what happens with that afterwards. Yeah, I feel pretty safe in saying that this fight will go to a decision. Um, Only because, but it's so tough. Like you said, it's been about 3.5 years now since Cruz has fought. Um, he's been famous for saying that ring rust doesn't exist.
Yeah,
And I mean he proved it. Um,
twice.
yeah. Although I mean, then you go back to his last fight, which was a loss to Cody Garbrandt.
Mm-hmm.
Garbrandt, I don't know. It's almost like Garbrandt had all the cheat codes. He somehow just he
Mm-hmm.
totally dominated that fight. I don't know if that was just Garbrandt with the perfect game plan or Cruz was off or what. It just wasn't his night. But either way, after 3.5 years, it's hard to imagine um, what Cruz is going to look like. Now, I don't think Cruz is going to look terrible because I mean he seems like a guy who's always um, he's a very hard worker. He's got a lot of heart. Um, he I have no doubt he's training as hard as he can,
Mm-hmm.
and he's been making sure if he wasn't able to do things physically, he was definitely able to do things mentally. He's a very intelligent fighter, one of the most intelligent fighters in the game. Then you have Cejudo, who is coming off his own little layoff, almost a year. after having shoulder surgery. Um, but yeah, he's been basically on a tear, like you were saying, and for a guy who was known mostly for his wrestling at one point, his striking has really improved, and he's become very well rounded. Um, so it's hard to say. Like I would imagine, Cruz is gonna now. Cruz also he has a nice, he's got a wrestling background too.
Yeah.
Although he's primarily a striker. He's got that unorthodox movement. His footwork is like some of the best in the game. Um, but I'm sure with that footwork, if Cejudo say were try to like take him down, I'm sure Cruz can make him miss with a takedown. I'm sure he can
Mhm.
do his own fair share of
Mhm.
defending a takedown. Um, and I'd say he definitely has the advantage on the feet against Cejudo. Um, just because, and Cruz is also, I mean, he's bigger. I mean, he's definitely the bigger bantamweight.
Yeah.
Cejudo, I mean, he's smaller. He's got some muscle on him, some strength. He looks like he's in good shape, as does Cruz. But him being the bigger guy, the taller guy, he can use that. He could definitely use that to his advantage too, with his skill sets. So I think it's hard to pick. I like them both. I think they're both like top of the line. But I'm a big Dominic Cruz fan,
Mhm.
so maybe I'm being a little biased. But yeah, I think he's smart enough to get the win by decision, and pretty much like you said, to make Cejudo miss enough,
Mhm.
uh, be on the defense enough, and hit Cejudo with some good punches. Maybe he'll even catch him. Unless Cejudo's able to grab a hold of him and maybe grind out some wrestling and get a victory that way. Um, Hard to say, but I think Cruz is, he knows what to expect, as does Cejudo. But
Mhm.
yeah, I'm gonna go with Cruz becoming champ once again, and yeah, winning by decision.
Okay.
All right, all right. Now up to the main event of the evening. We've got Tony El Kukui Ferguson going up against Justin Gaethje for the interim lightweight championship of the world. Now, some could say that Ferguson is almost, you can almost call him still an interim champ. He was once an
Yeah.
interim lightweight champ. He got stripped of it. He hasn't
Could
gotten
be a
beaten.
first time double interim champion.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I don't know. That's true. I
Could
didn't
be.
think of that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, obviously without, the initial fight being Tony against Khabib. Of course, it didn't happen once again. Um, so this is still looking to be a great, great fight. How do you see it going down?
Yeah. This fight is definitely not going to decision. This is one of the fights you could definitely say it's not going to decision. It will not be boring.
Mm-hmm.
And Dana White even
Yeah,
said, "I could
be shot.
promise you, yeah, that yeah, I don't see this. This fight, I don't think there will even be a feel out process. Honestly, with these two guys, this is a
Yeah.
perfect fight.
Well, mm,
If you say you want a action filled fight, you put these two guys up there. These are the two perfect guys to do it. You have Tony Ferguson on the 12 fight win streak with 9 finishes in that win streak going. Then you have Justin Gaethje on the 3 fight win streak with stoppages in the first round with all those 3 wins. I mean, yeah, Tony Ferguson, excellent submission artist. Justin Gaethje, who's has very underrated wrestling. He could wrestle. He has great wrestling defense, but he just doesn't show it because he loves to strike, and pretty much that's all he's known for
yeah,
doing.
he's
To
the
get
highlight. Yeah,
yeah,
he likes
and
getting
he's
the highlight.
got nasty leg kicks too.
Mhm.
You know how Justin Gagey starts off a little slow. He likes to get hit first to be in the fight. Same thing with Tony Ferguson. He wants to get hit in order to be in the fight.
Mhm.
Um, and then prior, Justin Gagey said if this fight were to happen April 18th, he has 3 rounds to take him out. Otherwise, in 4 and 5, it's going to be all Ferguson. I think with this extra time that he has, it gives him some advantage there. Also, Tony Ferguson, who is now cutting weight for the second time because he made 155 on April 17th, just to show the principle he has, and the basically the determination, the heart of a champion, even though there was no fight, that he could still make weight. I give him a lot of credit for that, but making weight a second time is tough, so I'm thinking, would that pay a toll on him and, be a disadvantage in the fight? This is a really tough fight. It's another pick 'em fight here. I mean, I don't know. I mean, listen, if Gaethje wins, I could promise you Ferguson and Khabib will happen. I think they would definitely be fighting some way, somehow. I know Tony Ferguson has a lot of all eyes are on him, all the pressure on him. Justin Gaethje has nothing to lose. He's just goes in there. All he has to do is just knock out Ferguson. Ferguson's been tested, actually. He's been tagged a few times.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. This is a really tough fight. I think it's going to be a third round stoppage. I mean, I should say Tony Ferguson, but what I'll say this: I won't be surprised if Justin Gaethje wins, but I'm gonna, as a pick, I'll go with Tony Ferguson third round TKO.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, like you were saying, can't imagine a feel out process, only because, well, you would imagine. I think it's pretty simple that, like, if Gaethje's gonna win, he's gonna have to do it in the first couple rounds, and if Ferguson wins, it's gonna be in the later rounds. Ferguson's cardio is just insane. He can go forever. Gaethje, I mean, he's definitely shown that he can get tired. Although he'll still have power in his hands. He hits, he hits like a truck, for a lightweight. So yeah, it is tough to say. I mean, Gaethje can, he can come out there. He can, I don't know how much he'll want to wrestle. I can't imagine he'd want to, especially at this point, just because Tony is just so good off his back. He can land some elbows on him, and that, like, always, I don't know, he seems to have like razor blades on his elbows. Anytime he hits someone with elbows, they open up and they're bloody, like, instantly. I yeah, I think Tony is just too smart and too calculated, and he's also, he's pretty durable, like you were saying. He's taken some shots before, and he's shown that he can. Yeah, he hasn't lost in 8 years. I think yesterday was the anniversary of his last loss 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Which is, yeah, it's nuts, to be undefeated for this long, and I think I'd say the smart pick would say Tony Ferguson in the later rounds. I'd say man, it's tough. I'll say Ferguson by submission in the fourth round.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, but Gaethje could catch him. I mean, if he lands a clean shot at him.
Yeah.
Like I said, Ferguson's durable, but I mean, he'll have to lay it on him early, because even he knows that if he lets it go past a certain amount of time, it's gonna be a long night, and it's not gonna work out so well for him. So I'd say it is a safer pick, but yeah, I'm gonna go with Tony to get, once again, be the interim champ and win by submission in the fourth round. All right, so that's it. It's our predictions. Can't wait for this to finally happen.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, everything still looks good. Apparently, the fighters are getting tested, like, probably as we speak, to make sure everything's all set. Hopefully, everyone makes weight. travel doesn't like inhibit anyone's weight cut or anything. But yeah, thank God it's finally going down. Then we have a couple more fights coming next couple week in the next week. So yeah, it'll be it's an exciting time. Hopefully everything's slowly coming back to normal. So all right. So see you guys next time. Talk about, what happened here, maybe preview the next fight. So everyone stay safe. Take care.